Hey, this is Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring in Seattle, and I'm thinking about I just went through a big, epic, life-altering experience, which is somebody passed away. And it's the significant other of one of my parents. And out of respect for the privacy of my mother and my father, I'm realizing that I'm the only one, I think, in my family that likes to share in the public way that I share. And I'm trying to figure out how can I respect my family and their privacy, but also feel like I am free and liberated from the dogma of I am not wanting to be as private as the rest of my family. So my mother and my father are both artistic, sensitive, creative people, but they don't have a YouTube channel and they don't do video monologues. I'm the only one in my family who does video monologues. And a significant other of one of my close relatives passed away after a brief but obviously severe illness. I won't share the private details of this person's medical journey out of respect for their privacy. I will just say how it affected me is that it makes you realize how trivial some of our problems are compared to whether we survive or we pass away. And I feel out of respect for the life of the person who passed away just yesterday at 9:51 a.m. This person passed away. The good news is this person did not want to suffer in the hospital for a long period of time, or this person also did not want to go to a nursing care facility and have a slow, drawn out end of life. This person, because of something they witnessed, a loved one of theirs going through a very slow process of death, this person was hoping for something more brief. And out of respect for the privacy, I won't tell you the details, but this person had a fairly swift passing away process, which was a relief to my relative and I yesterday because this person was suffering and had, physical pain because of their illness. And so we are sad but relieved. And it makes me realize. And then this person had problems unresolved, personal stuff. And now that this person is no longer here, the surviving relatives of this person are having to pick up the pieces and sort through all of that and solve it for the person that couldn't finish when they were still here. So it makes me realize what's important in life is that we do what we love. We love our family and our friends. We do our art if we're artists. And so I feel rejuvenated and compelled to continue loving and honoring myself. So let's just say that there was phases that I went through. The last 10 days or so, this person was in the hospital and we weren't sure if they were going to make it or not. And then it was clear that they probably weren't going to make it. And so then we were trying to get this person what they wanted and fight for their right to have their wishes granted. And I'm feeling very strong and stoic today, but I have gone through phases of feeling angry. The cycle of grief is like, what is it? Numbness, detachment, anger, sadness, fear, denial, shock, all of it. I've done enough therapy to know all the different phases of grief, and I've been in support groups and I've acted out life and death scenarios as an actor with medical professionals So I sort of have rehearsed this, as you could say. And I just signed up for an acting class at the Freehold Theater that I'm excited to take a voice acting class. I'm thinking about honoring my desire to, okay, let's just say that I come from a family. I'm an only child of parents who divorced when I was 4, and my dad writes comedy and music. He writes folk music and he sings and plays guitar and is inspired by Gordon Lightfoot and Bob Dylan and George Carlin and Richard Pryor and lots of famous soundtrack movie score writers. He's very sensitive to melody. So my dad is very intelligent and sensitive and writes folk music and comedy, but he has not performed it on stage professionally. And is very philosophical and intelligent and sensitive. And my mom makes visual art, and she has her own unique style, but she doesn't want me to share it, so I will not share my mom's art with you, but she doesn't want me to. And I respect her privacy. But I'm just saying this to say that I was raised by two very sensitive, intelligent, artistic minded people who are free thinking and open minded and not religious. My mom is spiritual in an Eastern philosophy, non duality, Advaita Vedanta, Eastern philosophy kind of way, although she doesn't use those kind of words, but she does say Advaita Vedanta, non duality. And my dad is very agnostic, but very altruistic and very much into being a kind person, and you reap what you sow. And so to me, that's kind of a spiritual philosophy. But my dad says, no, I'm not spiritual, I'm agnostic. But I believe in being a good person, and what you put out in the universe comes back to you. So he believes in what you reap, what you sow, and things like that. So wisdom, basically wisdom. Both my parents are very intelligent, sensitive. The drawback of my childhood was that both my parents are also very critical of themselves and others and perfectionistic and have very high standards. And also maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable with the idea of somebody being successful and the danger of that person becoming an egomaniac. And you know how some successful people get a little caught up in their own egos and they think they're better than other people and they, act narcissistic or egomaniac-ish, if that's even a word. So I grew up thinking that if I was really successful, then maybe I would be thought of as an egomaniac and nobody would like me and everyone would think I was a selfish jerk or that I was greedy or something like that. But I also grew up thinking that if I failed, then that would also not be good and that would be embarrassing. And if I suck at something and embarrass myself in front of other people, that's no good. So nobody wants to really fail. But I also think as a teenager, I felt like I've always wanted to be famous. I've always wanted to communicate. I've always wanted to publish. Okay, I made Art, Identity, and the Sacred. This is the visual art book that I created, Art, Identity, and the Sacred. And it's a full color book filled with my photos and my art. I'm proud of this. I'm happy about this. This is my 17 track KRING Flower XL with a photo here. There's me with my art car and my KRING wear bodysuit and a hat that I painted, top hat that I painted for Tom Petty, who widens my jetty. So this is KRING Flower, the 2024 CD with 17 original tracks on it. I typed them out because my handwriting is a bit sloppy. So I typed out the 17 tracks. So there's music and art. This is my poetry book that I published, Kringonian Pizzazz, KringSPEAK Poetry, and I'm making a new book right now called KRING Flower, Song Lyrics by Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring. And this is Seattle Magazine that I'm happy to say the wonderful journalist Brad Holden interviewed me. And there's an article called The Performance Art of Goddess Kring, and then a photo of me with my art car, Opal Moonstone, which is a Honda Fit covered in rhinestones. So this is an example of me being published. Uh, I publish myself and I've been published by other people. And I'm very proud of that and happy about that. But at the same time, I struggle with feeling ashamed, like maybe I don't deserve success, or maybe other people will be jealous of me if I'm successful, like in high school when I won a tennis match and I would feel guilty. So I'm just thinking about I love and respect my parents. The dark side of my childhood was that I was a bit neglected, not because my parents are mean, but because my parents are wounded. My parents are both insecure. My parents are both very sensitive, intelligent. And when I say sensitive, I don't mean that they get their feelings hurt. I think some people, when you say you're sensitive, they think it means that you get your feelings hurt easily. When I say sensitive, I mean it's positive and negative. When you're sensitive, you feel things very deeply. You could get your feelings hurt, but you also, that's the dark side. The light side of being sensitive is that you are walking down the street and you see an insect and you don't step on it. Like both my parents are kind and gentle. And if they see insects on the sidewalk, they will not step on the insects. They will feel compassion and love for the insect or for nature, for wildlife. So my parents are thoughtful, intelligent, philosophical, gifted, creative, open minded, talented. I mean, these are all the good traits. My parents are beautiful people. And I think I'm a beautiful person too. I'm starting to realize I'm a beautiful person in some ways. In some ways, I'm going to cry now. In some ways, I could be a selfish jerk. In some ways, I lose my temper. I get mad. I feel competitive with other people. I feel defensive around other people. I feel, I feel some, I relate to, I feel sometimes misunderstood. I feel sometimes underappreciated. I feel like I'm a very gifted human being and I feel competitive with other people. And I feel like I'm proud that I painted a top hat for Tom Petty and his wife wrote me back a postcard in 1992. I'm proud that I painted shoes for Tori Amos and she wore them on stage in 96. But then I'm thinking, well, what do I really want? I've always wanted to act, to be an actor, partly. I am enjoying making music with Dave Flowers, and yet as a little kid, I was labeled as shy. So my parents are both sensitive, thoughtful, intelligent, interesting people. Into philosophy, into in their own intuitive way. I don't mean that they go around quoting famous philosophers. I mean that have they're educated about philosophy, but they make up their own philosophy. So they have their own philosophy about how to live and their own personal philosophy. So as a child, I knew that I was lucky that I had really smart, interesting parents. My friends in San Diego said that my parents were nicer than their parents. And so in some ways my parents were the cool parents. They would let me have slumber parties and stay up late and my parents they both still treat me like I'm an intelligent, sensitive person. They don't talk down to me. You know, the way some adults are condescending to kids. My parents were not like that. They treated me like an intelligent person, and that is valuable. The dark side of my childhood, though, was that both my parents are very critical of themselves and other people. So I witnessed them both criticizing famous people or the next door neighbors or me or other relatives or I witnessed a lot of criticism, like a lot of criticism, like intelligent criticism, not stupid criticism, like stupid, shallow, mean criticism, but criticism like deep thinking type criticism, which is very confusing for like a third grader. Like when I was in third grade, I knew my parents' problem. I knew their problems. I knew some of their adult problems, and that was too much for me. It was too much for me. So the dark side of my childhood was that my parents confided in me about their problems, And both of them weren't really meant to be together, so they divorced when I was 4. And both of them were distracted with trying to figure out their love lives and their career because they divorced. So my mom and dad were each trying to figure out their love lives and their careers. My dad was a tennis teacher and did comedy and music, but not professionally. So I grew up hoping that he would become successful with comedy, music, and tennis. And I grew up hoping my mom would be successful with her art. But my mom doesn't want to be famous, and she doesn't have that kind of ego that wants to show off, even though her art is very beautiful and unique. She works with clay and metal and enameling, but she doesn't want me to talk about her art, so I won't. So I'm not doing this because I'm consumed with me, just Shannon Kringen. It's all about me. My parents are both very private, so they don't really want me talking a lot about them. So I'll just say, I love my parents. They are precious, beautiful people, and they're sensitive and intelligent. And I appreciate my dad's talent with comedy, music, and he's a very good athlete. He's very athletic. He's 80 or 81, and he's a personal fitness trainer. He's a certified personal fitness trainer literally right now, and he's helping other seniors become fit. And that's inspiring to me. He's super healthy and fit, like Mick Jagger. As healthy as Mick Jagger, and he's about the same age as Mick Jagger, literally. So they're that literally, I mean that, I'm not exaggerating. And then my mom is a beautiful, natural, healthy person. And she's interested in Advaita Vedanta, non-duality, and she's very quiet and very private and more introverted than me. I've always been a bit more extroverted than my mom, and that's always been uncomfortable for my mom and me both because I feel like I always wanted to kind of get into showbiz and sing and dance and act, but I'm a little shy, but I kind of wanted to be on stage, but I'm a little shy, I kind of want to be on stage. And my mom, I think, was sort of hoping that I wouldn't want to be on stage because she's not real comfortable. She would never want to be an art model. And my mom is very beautiful. And people would love to draw her and paint her. Even now, at the age of 78, she's got this beautiful, like silver hair that's kind of wavy like mine, and these big, beautiful eyes. And she's very pretty. But she does not want to be a model. She does not want to be on stage. She does not. I mean, people would love, like one time I was having coffee with my mom, and one of the art model people that hire me saw me and my mom and said, "Oh, you're so beautiful, just like your daughter. Would you ever like to model for us? We would love to paint you." And my mom said, "Well, I'm very flattered, but no, I don't want to be a model." So my mom could have been, she could model for artists if she wanted to, even at the age of 78, but she doesn't want to. So I'm just letting you know that my parents are both interesting people, but they're both critical and they're both distracted. And I never felt like I got enough attention from them. And at the same time, or encouragement or validation, they both, in some ways, invalidate me, even to this day. I don't think they realize it, but they say things to me that are critical. And I don't mean like mean, stupid comments. I mean just intelligent, analytical, deep thoughts, but they're critical. So I feel like literally, if I won the Pulitzer Prize or a Grammy, if I was a musician and I won a Grammy, I imagine my parents would find a way to criticize. Like maybe they would think I was too full of my own ego, or that I better go and take my success and give to those less fortunate, or, I better do something better or different than what I'm doing. So I feel like no matter what, whether I fail or succeed, my parents are going to be a little critical. So I feel like, oh, that's what I was going to say. I don't want to be a hypocrite. So if I just sit here and criticize my parents, then I'm being just like them. So if you come from a family who constantly criticizes, the way to heal from that is to forget, to acknowledge that you come from a critical family and acknowledge how that has held you back from being a fully successful person that loves yourself and has high self-esteem. Because if I criticize my parents, then I'm being just like them. So if I bitch about the dark side of my childhood, I don't want to be a victim. I want to learn. So I want to learn, grow, and heal from my childhood, from the good and bad of my childhood. And I want to forgive my parents and appreciate them. And it's precisely because I had a challenging childhood that I want to share with you. I mean, this gives me something to talk about. the fact that my parents, I wanted to maybe write a memoir called Checkerboard Childhood in the Wild Lively Wood, meaning my parents are dynamic, interesting people. You know, they're both very intelligent. My mom reads about quantum physics and non-duality and Taoism and Buddhism and Hinduism and Advaita Vedanta non-duality and Krishnamurti. And she is interested in a wide variety of topics, and she's very smart and into nature. And she eats really healthy, and she meditates in her own way, in her own intuitive way, not in a formal way. She doesn't meditate with a cushion or whatever. She does her own intuitive jnana yoga. It's called jnana yoga. And my dad writes comedy and music, and he's very funny, and he cheers people up. He holds the door open for homeless people. He's kind. He used to go to children's hospital and do comedy and music for kids to cheer them up, kids that had cancer, and cheer them up. So my dad is giving and altruistic. He volunteers at the Humane Society. He helps, he has two cats that he pampers with love, and he takes them for walks in his backyard. I mean, my dad is an animal lover, and he's very sweet and kind, and some of my dad's favorite fitness clients are people that have like physical limitations or that are in a wheelchair, or they have like whatever physical challenges. And my dad is really good at, he doesn't just train people that want to look good and be buff, or all this. It's all about health and actual health and nutrition and fitness, and people that are in wheelchairs that think they can't exercise, and he actually knows how to motivate them. My dad knows how to have them take baby steps, and just for 10 minutes a day they can just like lift a few weights, or do 5 minutes on the exercise bike, or whatever they can do to make little improvements. And so he's good at inspiring them to make little improvements on their fitness, and I think that's really beautiful and inspiring. And my mom at the hospital was very sweet to the person she loves that passed away yesterday, and she was making sure to fight for his right to have things his way with legal documents and all of that. And I don't want to go into detail because that's private, but I'll just say that I admire both my parents for this. And then the dark side is that they're both critical, and there's a sort of feeling of competition between me and my parents, sort of in my own kind of way. And I feel like for me to forgive them, acknowledge the dark side of the family I grew up in. I'm also on the autism spectrum, so that might be why my boundaries are different than other people's. I'm a little bit more blunt and honest in some ways, which is jarring to some people. I've always wanted to publicly share certain things, but I respect and love both my parents, and so they're private. I won't say their names on here, but I'll just say that I've always wanted to publicly publish, like I publish, my own original music. I publish my visual art. I publish my poetry. I'm a model in front of literally thousands of people. I've been art modeling for 32 years. And so I'm a public person. But honestly, I feel like I'm not very successful compared to how I want to be. Like, I would love to be more famous. But when I say that, it's embarrassing to say because it sounds so silly. I want to be famous. It's like, what does that mean? I want to be more published. I want to be taken seriously as a adult who has something to share, who has poetry and music. I have unique music and poetry, visual art, these video monologues. This is part of my art. So I'm just thinking about my family dogma. And if anything, some people are raised in really strict religious homes, and maybe they need to break free from that. Some people are raised with people who have, addictions or drug and alcohol problems or whatever. I don't have any of that, or domestic violence or things like that. I don't have any of that in my family. What I have is just this, in my opinion, the family wound that I would like to heal from, because I'm an only child and I never had kids. So the family is ending with me. My legacy, because I didn't have kids, my legacy is my art, is my creative expression, my philosophy in life, the ripple effect that I can create with other people. I like to think that I could inspire people to have self-confidence and high self-esteem. If I had ever had a child, I wanted them to have high self-esteem. So I'm raising myself. I am my own child. I am Shannon Kringen. I'm an only child and I'm raising myself. I'm 56. I'm autistic. I'm dyslexic. I have ADHD and autism and OCD, but I'm also highly sensitive and highly intelligent, gifted with music, gifted with visual art, gifted with speaking into the microphone. I like my voice. I like the sound of my voice. I have self-confidence. I am sensitive to criticism. I'm trying to just let people criticize me and just ignore it. If it's constructive criticism that I can learn from, hey, that's great. If you want to constructively criticize me and I can learn to be a better person from that, that's awesome. I love that. I'm open to constructive criticism. But the kind of criticism that's just trying to shut me down or make me feel ashamed of myself, I'm just going to ignore that. That's going to be like, water off a duck's back, as they say, like the nice oily feathers of a duck, and then the water droplets just flow off of it. I love that. I love visualizing water off a duck's back. Maybe I should write a song or a poem called Water Off a Duck's Back or something like that. But I want to heal and grow and learn. I would like to heal and grow and learn and build my self esteem and be my authentic self, be an example of somebody who is their authentic self, authentic. I like to say authentic ejaculation of my soul, molten orange liquid glow, but some people are offended by that language. So I say authentic eruption of my soul, molten orange liquid glow. Anger takes its toll, blowing status quo. So that's part of a poem that I wrote, KringSPEAK poetry. So I would like to learn to grow into my mature self, which is I am 56. I love my mom and I love my dad, and I want to forgive them. I don't want to repeat the pattern of I could easily just sit here and think of all the critical thoughts I have of both of them, but I don't want to do that. They gave birth to me. They created me. That's a gift. And I am so grateful. And all of the negative things like having parents that are extremely critical, like some parents think everything their kid does is great, even if it isn't great. They think it's great and they sort of worship their own kid. And maybe that's good to build a self-esteem of your kid, to be really doting on your kid. My parents are the opposite. I feel like they both appreciate me. Okay. They think I'm intelligent, sensitive, and they're proud of me in some ways, but they're overall more critical. They're the more critical kind of parent. So if I show them art or music I've made, they're honest. They say, well, I like that, but that could be better. So like they're critical. So I never feel like I'm good enough. Like I feel like I'm constantly doing things and I'm never quite good enough, because also you can't win with parents that are critical of success, because if you do something great, they might go, well, that's great, but they don't want me to be full of my own ego and like go, hey, look at me, I'm so cool. I'm gonna be super successful and rich and famous and show off. They're not encouraging that from me. So if I want to be rich and famous and successful, I have to just do that on my own, knowing that they might not even respond well to that. Like if I was literally a musician on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, I wonder what my parents would think. I think it would make them feel like, oh my God, I can't believe our daughter's on the cover of Rolling Stone. I mean, they might feel weird about it. So I'm not sure if they would be like happy and proud. And they're both very private. My mom would probably want to be like, oh my God, she does not want to be famous. So if I was a super famous rock star, my mom would be uncomfortable, I think, actually. She would want her privacy. She would not want people showing up trying to photograph me or her walking down the street or whatever. Whereas my dad would be proud, but he might also feel like he doesn't want the spotlight. So I think both my parents, like, I want to forgive them. I want to not perpetuate the criticism. I am also very critical, that I realize that I am critical like my parents. I have very strong opinions about art and music, and if somebody is talented or not as talented as other people think, and people argue about you know, people evaluate, people judge and analyze and score, give everything a score. I have some of that in me. So the way to heal from that and allow myself to be as successful as I can be, and also to fail. Like I took an acting class at Freehold Theater from Matt Smith, one of the cast members from Almost Live. And he has an exercise where you go, thank you, I failed. You raise your hands and you go, thank you, I failed. Thank you, I failed, to get you used to the idea that it's okay to completely suck. Because if you want to be an actor, you have to be willing to make a fool out of yourself. When you take an acting class, you have to be willing to suck. You have to be willing to get up there and say your lines and screw it up and say it wrong or sound not good. You know, you have to be willing to be bad in order to be good. So, in order to, whether you fail or succeed, it's true that it's cliche to say failure and success don't matter. It's just about, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Actually, I think that's true. I think that whether you fail or succeed, if you try to do something, even if you fail, you are succeeding because you are trying to do something. If you never even try, then you are actually failing. You're failing. If you're afraid to fail to the point where you don't even try, then you're actually failing in a way. And you'll always wonder what could have happened if you had done whatever it was. If you try to be an actor, for instance, you know, um, so there. So I want to try to learn, grow, and heal. And for me to heal from my family wound would be to try to be as successful as I can be. How successful can I become? And even if I fail to ever become as successful as I want, that's okay because I want to do my best and tap into my talent and my potential in acting, in writing poetry, in publishing my own books, in publishing music. We are going to perform live. I'm going to perform as Goddess Kring. I would love to get our music on KEXP radio. Maybe that will never happen. I don't know. Maybe not. I would love to get on the Nancy Guppy show, Art Zones. Maybe that will never happen. I don't know. I did literally talk with Nancy Guppy a few times. I did literally send her my poetry and my music, and she said, yes, send me your poetry and your music. I'm happy about that. I accomplished that goal, but the rest is up to me. Like, I have to just do my best. I have to just create art and publish it and share it. I'm grateful I was interviewed for Seattle Magazine. I'm grateful I was interviewed for the Everett Herald. I'm grateful I had a public access TV show for 15 years. I've been an art model for 32 years. I've accomplished all of this, and yet I still feel like it's not enough. I want to accomplish more. I would like to be famous. I would like to be interviewed. Okay, if you want to know what my fantasy is, I would love to be on the cover of a magazine in Seattle. I would love to be interviewed for um, mainstream publications or at least local ones in Seattle. I would love to be interviewed about my TV show, interviewed about my art car. I have Opal Moonstar. I mean, I was interviewed in Seattle Magazine about I'm interviewed in Seattle Magazine. I mean, wow, the performance art of Goddess Kring is in here. Like literally. I mean, I think I need to just appreciate that for what it is. And it's true, I have a fear of scarcity. I feel like no matter what, I'm probably going to want more. Like this has literally been published. I mean, I celebrate the performance art of Goddess Kring by Matt Holden has been published. And the subtitle is Shannon Kringen retains her colorful and quirky personality from her public access TV show. And it's like a 2-page article. I mean, that is amazing. I am so grateful for this. Thank you, Brad Holden. I know I've already said this on video before. I am so grateful. Maybe it might be nice if I would just appreciate that instead of thinking, when can I get interviewed again? I would love to be interviewed on people's podcasts. I was actually on somebody's podcast recently called, now I forgot what it's called. Something Rather Than Nothing. There's a podcast called Something Rather Than Nothing, and they interviewed me, and that was published on their website. I would love to be interviewed more. I would love to, but what I really need to do is just keep creating my art, music, poetry, and visual art in my art car and my art modeling. Keep doing that. I'm going to take an acting class at Freehold Theater. called Voice soon in January of 2025. So, the best thing I can do to create more success for myself and encourage you, I encourage you, my audience. I don't know how many people are watching this video. I'm definitely going to be listening to this video, podcast, monologue, whatever you want to call it. This is the Shannon Kringen Goddess Kring monologue. It is December 22nd, 2024. A relative of mine's significant other literally passed away yesterday morning. We knew that was probably going to happen though, and it was very sad, but at the same time, I do feel a sense of relief. Yesterday, my arms and legs felt weird and I felt nauseous. I felt kind of sick to my stomach emotionally because I felt sad for him and his family and people close to him. I wasn't super close to him, but my mom was very close to him. So I feel very sad about that. And my body felt weird. Part of the grief is, for me anyway, part of grief is to feel it in my body. My arms and legs felt weird. Like, I guess that's just sadness. I don't know what that is, but my body is very sensitive to things like that. So I feel a sense of rejuvenation, like, wow. And yesterday was the winter solstice. He passed away on the winter solstice, which is kind of a powerful day, just like my cat Kisun passed away on Lionsgate, which was August 8th. I think that was 2022. August 8th, 2022, my kitty Kisun passed away, and that was Lionsgate. Very spiritually significant day. And yesterday, my mom's significant other passed away. They were together for 8 years and he passed away. And that was on the winter solstice, which is a day of renewal and rebirth. So he passed away on the day of rebirth, although he was an atheist, and I respect that. But I think whatever he dropped his body, and if there's any soul there, it's on to the next level. It's reborn into the universe in a new way. So I release him to his highest good. And I release my mom to her highest good in terms of her life is now different. She's restructuring her entire life. She's a very private person. So out of respect for her, that's all I'm going to say. I don't think she follows my YouTube channel, so she's probably not going to listen to this. And if she does, hey, I'm sorry if you're upset with me, but I feel like out of respect for myself, I'm expressing myself. I am freely expressing myself. I mean no disrespect to anyone. I am only speaking for myself through Shannon Kringen. This is me, Shannon Kringen. I would love to be more successful in terms of communicating with people. I would like to tap into my potential to the best of my ability with my poetry, my music, my art modeling, taking care of animals. I take care of dogs and cats. I love animals. I volunteer out in nature. I take photos. I do lots of different things. I would love to be published more, interviewed more. I'm open to being on TV shows. I'm open to being more published. I'm open to being a more public person. I'm taking the acting class. Maybe I'll be in a play. There's a few other acting classes I could take that are the precursor to being in an actual play performed for the public. I'm in the parade every year, usually in Seattle, on my bike with body paint, and with my art car. But maybe I could try something new. I can start doing spoken word open mic poetry around town, perform as Goddess Kring, doing music, share with whoever wants to listen to what I have to share through music, poetry, acting, visual art, all of it. These are some of my goals. And to have self-confidence and to go ahead and be self-indulgent in an artistic, creative way. And if other people are jealous or think that I'm that want to judge me in some negative way, then I need to just say, oh, well, whatever. They can just have that opinion. It's fine. That can just roll off my duck feather back. Roll off my duck feather back. So yeah, thanks for listening. This is Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring in Seattle. Find me online, Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring, music, poetry, visual art. Thank you for liking and subscribing to this video. I think I'm going to have a slumber party with some friends for Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody. And I'm also going to be taking care of some cats and some dogs. And loving my mom and dad in every way that I possibly can, and trying to heal from the family dogma of criticism by learning from constructive criticism and then taking the negative criticism that is not helpful and just putting it in the compost pile and visualizing some beautiful fungus and mushrooms growing, some green grass growing out of the fertilizer and the compost of criticism. Yeah, in one of my poems, I say, strong enough to endure the manure mentality. So it's kind of like when people go around, I think that sometimes people do criticize other people to make themselves feel better. That's mostly what it is. When people criticize, maybe they sometimes have a valid point to make about how somebody could do something better. But a lot of times I feel like when you go around and you criticize other people, you're just trying to make yourself feel better, like you know what's like, I know what's best, so I'm going to criticize these people over here because I know what's best. You want to label these other people because you think you know better than these other people. And it just makes you feel better. Like it just makes you feel strong and powerful and like you know what's best, and those people over there don't understand. That's what it's from. So have compassion and empathy for people who go around criticizing other people all the time. Because I know that my grandmother did that. My grandmother was very good with dogs. She was very good with animals. She had horses and dogs and cats, and she was very good with animals. And she would witness the next door neighbors not being very good with their dogs. And my grandma probably was right. The neighbors probably could have done better with their dogs. But my grandma had a habit, though, of constantly criticizing other people. And so it was a little too much. She might have had valid points to make, but it was just it did not have a good effect on me and my mom. It did not have a good effect. My grandma was so critical. It had kind of a bad effect on us. So, and yet my grandma was probably just trying to feel safe. She was probably just trying to feel like she was taking care of things and handling things and being a good, strong woman. My grandma was left-handed and grew up, when was she born in the 20s? And she didn't call herself a feminist, my grandma, but she was a very strong, unusual woman for her generation. She was a go-getter. She had a career. She had a full-time job. She had a husband that was the more feminine one. My grandma was you could say she was the more masculine one. She wore the pants in the family. My grandmother on my mom's side was the matriarch of the family, and she was very strong, and she was a good cook. She cooked everything from scratch. She was left-handed. She rode horses. She was a big, strong, muscular kind of person, broad shoulders. She was part Native American, my grandmother. She had dark, straight hair and brown eyes and beautiful cheekbones. And she looked kind of like a Native American Indian, my grandmother. And she looked very different than my mom and I look more Irish. I look more Scandinavian. My mom actually looks more Irish than me. So never mind, that's just a whole nother story. But I'm just thinking about my grandmother and how critical she was and how that had a negative effect on me and my mom and how we need to break free from that. So to heal from the family dogma in my family, I'm not speaking for anyone else except me, is to learn from criticism, but basically ignore most criticism and just do what I love anyway. No matter what anyone else says, do what I love, do my art and my music and taking care of animals and being out in nature, doing what I love and what I believe in, and letting people criticize it if they want. Like, just go ahead and criticize it, whatever. I'm just going to do my thing. And if I can learn from constructive criticism, that's great. But I'm not going to fixate on criticism. I'm not going to let it hold me back. Like when I say tame the shame, I mean when people make fun of you and pick on you and try to belittle you or dismiss you, misunderstand you, are condescending. I mean, I feel like sometimes people don't realize how smart I am and they're condescending to me. Maybe because I am kind of childlike. I'm on the autism spectrum. I'm dyslexic. I'm emotional. I feel misunderstood sometimes. So, hey, maybe all of us are misunderstood sometimes, especially people like me who are a little complicated and I contradict myself, whatever. I like to do hand gestures. Woo! Go hand gestures from Shannon Kringen. Okay, I'm gonna cut this off now. So, Shannon Kringen, this is the monologue for today. I love doing these monologues and I'm gonna listen. I don't know how many people are gonna listen, but if you're listening, thank you so much for liking and subscribing to this video. I've been on YouTube for 19 years. I wish that more people would be interested in what I do, but I'm not particularly popular so far. After 19 years of doing this, whatever, okay, there it is. But I love doing these monologues. I would love to be in a play in Seattle. Maybe I can take more classes at Freehold Theater. Maybe I should just start auditioning and try to get into a play. I don't know. But I have to keep working on my other jobs that support me. But maybe I could be in a play or an independent movie or whatever. So I still want to make the documentary, the Goddess Kring documentary. I'm thinking I'm going to have to mostly do it myself, but that would be the perfect Goddess Kring documentary because I did my TV show by myself with my camera and my microphone. So maybe a Goddess Kring documentary, I can mostly do it by myself with the help of Dave Flowers from Interactive Jack Records, who's going to do the instrumental score. He is a great musician. He could do the instrumental score of my Goddess Kring documentary. We want to start making music videos of the Kring Flower music. So I'm open to making my documentary film, making music videos, being interviewed by more magazines, all that jazz. So thanks for listening. And if that doesn't happen, that's okay too, but I'm going to try, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try to manifest this stuff. And if I fail, that's okay. And if I succeed, that's also okay. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter if I fail or succeed, really. It matters that I'm learning and growing and healing and expressing and being authentic and trying to create a positive ripple effect on planet Earth. That's the main thing. Okay, thanks for listening. I will see you next time. This is Shannon Kringen, Goddess Kring, signing off. Check out my Kring Flower music if you want. It's streaming on most websites. Most of the music streaming platforms are streaming Kring Flower music. Some of the song titles are Only Child, Monkey Wrench, Cancel Culture Vultures, Jazzmint, Banana Split, UFO Camera, New Year Revolution, Dumpster Diving Boots, Story of Goddess Kring, Slow Down with Gus Kringen, my dad, Cactus Hugging Vulnerable Viking, Polarized Landscape, Swirly Girl, Kaleidoscope Unicorn, Outsmart the Gaslighters, Bun Dance, and Free of Traps. So that is like 17, sorry, I hand wrote it on there. I hand wrote that. 17 original songs that Dave Flowers and I created at Interactive Jack Records. We would love to get KEXP to play our music. We did get Hollow Earth. Thank you, Hollow Earth Radio, for playing our music. And John Truby in Santa Rosa, California, who has a radio show, also played some of our music, and we're very happy. And No Pigeonholes. That's in Sebastopol, California, or is it Santa Rosa? I'm not sure, but oh, I forgot the name of the DJ who played our music, but thank you so much for playing our music. We would love to have our music played more, and we are going to perform, I think, live at the Central Saloon in Seattle of January 2025. Goddess Kring will be performing live with Tommy Cook, the drummer, and Dave Flowers, the keyboardist. So there. Thanks for listening. Happy holidays.